Hello, Mama. Yeah, we're going to be talking about you today. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be quick, simple, and easy. I'm going to talk about how I actually brought my cats with me to Japan. It's going to be a part 2 to my how to move to Japan video series, I guess. I did post a video about how I actually got here and what visa I got, how I found my apartment, things like that, maybe 2 weeks ago. I will link that video in the description, so if you're interested in that information, you can go check that out. But today we are actually going to be talking about how I brought my cats to Japan with me. So, without further ado, hajimemashou! So I do have my notes off to the side because there's no way I can remember all of that. So there is a website where you can actually find this step-by-step guide on how to move your animals to Japan. However, there was a couple things that I went through that was not a part of the step process, which is why I wanted to make this video, because it would have helped me if I had known that these things would have happened. So I will also link that website to the step-by-step guide on how to bring your animals into Japan in the description as well. So the absolute first step that you need to do if you want to bring your animals into Japan is plan ahead and make sure you have time. It took me basically 6 months to a year just to get the cats situated alone, not including anything that I had to do for myself. It's a lot. So like I said, the first thing you need to do is just be prepared and give yourself a lot of time. So the actual first step in this process is to have your pet microchipped. They have to be microchipped as the very first step. The microchip has to be ISO, it says ISO 11784 or 11785. They do have to be those specific type of microchips. If the microchip for some reason can't be read, they will either detain your animals for 180 days, which is basically 6 months, or they will send your animals back to your home country by your expense. And if it's not one of those ISO numbers, I believe you have to bring your own microchip reader, which from what I hear, microchip readers are very expensive, so just please make sure that they are either one of those two microchip ISOs. Step 2 is getting the series of rabies vaccinations, because Japan is a rabies-free country, so they do have to go through 2 rounds of rabies shots. You can get the first rabies shot at the same time that you microchip your pet. It's okay if you do that in the same day. It's just they have to be microchipped first and then get the first round of rabies shots. And what my situation was and what set me back is that when I adopted my cats, they were vaccinated first and then they had the microchip implanted, which you cannot do. You have to do this step by step to the T. So I basically had to pretend like the previous rabies vaccinations never happened. So I scheduled with my vet to have the first round of rabies shots. Step 2.5 is that you have to have a second round of rabies shots, but they have to be no less than 30 days after the first round of rabies shots. So you can't get them at the same time or anything, that they have to have time apart. So you have to get the first rabies shot and then no less than 30 days, you have to get the second round of rabies shots. And then when you get the second round of rabies shots, you have to also do a titer test, which is the blood test just to confirm that they don't have rabies. You can do that at the same time as the second rabies shot, or you can do it later. I just did not want to waste any time, so I did the second rabies shot and the titer test in the same day. And mind you, this was all very, very, very expensive. I don't know off the top of my head how much I spent to bring my animals to Japan, but just know that it is very expensive. It's very extremely expensive to bring your animals to Japan. I'm pretty sure I probably spent over $2,000 just on the cats alone. Monetarily, I took a hit, but at the same time, I did not want to move to Japan without my cats, so it was worth it in the end. So when they do take the blood test, sounds of someone using the litter box. Like, AG, this is not the right time. Okay, so once they do take the blood test and when the results come back, they do have to have a result of 0.5 milliliters, I believe is what it is. They have to have equal to or greater than 0.5 milliliters. I don't really know what that means, but I just knew what to look for when I got the results back. So for the next step, you don't have to wait for the blood result test to come back. You actually can start the day after the blood is drawn. So for example, the day that the blood is drawn would be day 0 and the next day would be day 1. Because once they have the second vaccine, they do have to quarantine for 180 days, which is basically 6 months. Which is why I said before, you know, if you are planning to bring your animals to Japan, plan very much so in ahead. Be prepared, know what you have to do in advance before you actually start this process, because it is a long, stressful, and expensive process. So yes, they do have to quarantine for 6 months, which I have indoor cats, so it's not like that was that hard. So if you are trying to bring a dog into Japan or any other animal into Japan, the link that I do have in the description on the step-by-step tutorial on how to bring animals into Japan does have steps for other types of animals. That's not just dogs, that's not just cats, like birds, other things. So basically where I messed up in this step process was that I waited for my school to accept me into the program before starting my cat's process. The time period that the cats would need to quarantine was longer than the time period from my acceptance to the start date. And with that being said, if your animals don't finish their quarantine before you go to Japan, they have to stay at the airport in their quarantine, like detention facility, and they cannot leave until their quarantine is done. I think you can visit them, but I think it has to be scheduled. Like, you can't just go and visit your animal if you want to. I'm pretty sure it has to be scheduled. I'm not entirely sure on that because I didn't want that to happen. So I'm not gonna manifest that. So at that point I was like, okay, well, I don't want them to stay at the airport. And if their quarantine isn't done or they find something wrong with their paperwork, the other option is they send them back to America, which is, again, something I didn't really want to happen. So at the end, I just decided to ask the school if I can start in the April term of 2025 instead of October of 2024, so that the cats could finish their quarantine and I wouldn't have to do anything drastic. So the next step that you have to do is send the airport that you are coming into Japan to an advance notification. This has to be at least 40 days before you get there. So I flew into Haneda and I used this online website, which I will try to link in the description, to send them the advance notification. I believe you can send it through email, fax, or through this online website, or by mail. Mail was not going to be an option because I didn't know how long it was going to take to get to the airport. So I was like, I'll just figure out how to use this website and do it that way, because that's probably the easiest way for me to send the advance notification. And I had to fill it out a couple of times because I had to change my flight into Japan like 3 different times. So you can send in a modification form. However, it is very important that you do know that you have to send that first notification at least 40 days before you get to Japan. You can send in the modification form at any point after that, but that very first notification form, you have to send it in at least 40 days before you get to Japan. Otherwise, if you don't send that first one, they will deny it. They will not accept any late forms. From what I hear, they won't accept any late forms. So just make sure you send that advance notification to the airport to tell them that you are coming to Japan with animals at least 40 days before you get there. Now, this is probably the part that was the most stressful. A lot of people probably don't bring pets to Japan, and I think I saw one person talk about this. After doing all of my research for months and months and months, I think I only saw one person like get into the nitty-gritty details about this part, which is the health certificate. So my vet had told me that around 5 days before you leave, you have to make an appointment with the vet to have like the final health check and to get the health certificate. Honestly, I think it was 5 to 10, but my vet had told me to see her 5 days before I leave. And then at this appointment, this is when you need to make sure your information that you put in that 40-day notice to the airport and that the vet's information matches. So information like the date that they were microchipped, the date that they had all of their rabies vaccines, the blood test date, the actual blood test results. You need to make sure that your information that you put in that 40-day notice and the vet's information matches so that the health certificate can be 100% correct. Also, something that I don't think I saw anyone talk about is that you have to make sure that your vet is USDA accredited. This could be common sense. I don't know. I've never moved to another country with animals before, but you have to make sure that your veterinary is a USDA certified vet. And there are ways to confirm that. So you can either call or you can go online to another website that I will link in the description to confirm if your vet is USDA accredited. For me, I called and I confirmed because on my vet's website, it did not specifically say USDA accredited. So I just wanted to double check. So I called her, she said she was, but then I also reached out to a NVAP Coordinator, which is the National Veterinary Accreditation Program, something like that. And you can reach out to a coordinator in your state or for your state to see if your vet is USDA accredited. So I went to my vet appointment, they did their last health checkup on the cats, and she said, you know, If you're a US citizen and you're moving to Japan, you can fill out the health certificate online. I don't know about other countries, but I just know for the US, you can fill out these forms online for the health certificate. I believe the form is called Form AC. You can get a copy of it on the website that I linked in the description with the step-by-step guide on how to bring animals to Japan, just in case you are not moving from the US. So again, I want to reiterate that I only had 5 days to make sure that this health certificate was great. The health check, the cats were fine, went through the health check with flying colors. So I'm thinking all is right in the world, all is well. You know, I'm literally leaving in, at this point, it was like 3 days, 2 days. So at this point, I'm starting to pack, I'm getting myself ready, I'm getting the cats ready, buying everything they need for the airplane, everything they would need for the first couple of days. And I get an email from Haneda Airport that's like, hey, send us a draft of the health certificate before the USDA officially signs it. And I was like, caught off guard, because like I said, I was leaving in 3 days at that point. So I had to call my vet and ask them, hey, can you send me a copy of what you have for the health certificate, because Haneda Airport's asking for it, even though this is not in the step process, at least not from what I could see. It was not in the step process that specifically said, hey, they're gonna ask you for a draft of the health certificate, because I would have asked for it at my vet appointment. So I called my vet and I asked them, hey, can you give me a draft of what you have for the health certificate, the one that the USDA hasn't signed yet? They sent it to me and they said, just so you know, we already sent what we have to the USDA. I rechecked what they had and I reread the email that Haneda had, because they did have some tips on specific information that people normally mess up, which was making sure that all of the dates were correct with your 40-day notice and with what the vet had. My dates were incorrect, so we only had a couple of days before I leave for Japan to fix it. But luckily, I got my vet to fix it before the USDA officially stamped the first one, and their information finally matched my information. They sent it to the USDA. The USDA finally stamped it, gave the stamp of approval. Everything matched, so it's fine. And I think 2 days, like a day or 2 days before I left, is when I got the official health certificate back, the one that was with the right information. So this is just a warning, I guess, to anyone who wants to bring your animals to Japan. When you go to that last health checkup at the vet, ask for a copy of what they have so you can match it with what you have, and make sure the information is correct before you leave that vet office, so that you won't have to go through what I did and you won't have to stress for the last 5 days in your country before you move to Japan. And make sure you keep every single document that the vet gives you regarding your pet's health. You should probably be doing that anyways, but they do also check all of the other certificates, not just the health certificate. You do also have to bring confirmation of all the other rabies shots, the blood test, the confirmation of the microchip. Just make sure you have every single health document under the sun for your animals, because they will check those as well. Now you're good. You got all your documents, you got your animals, you got your luggage. Now you can finally fly to Japan with your animals, but the step process does not stop there, because once you officially land in Japan, do not leave that airport without going to the airport animal quarantine facility. So for me, when I was in line for customs, there was a worker with a sign with my name on it that flagged me down to make sure that I did not leave that airport without having my animals checked. So the first thing they do is check all of the documents. They check the health certificate, they check the blood test, they check all of the rabies, dates, and vaccines, and things like that. And then they do take your animals into another room. You can go with them. Actually, they told me to go with them. They take your animals into another room so they can take them out of the carrier and check the microchip, make sure it's in the location that you said it is, and make sure that their microchip reader can actually read it. And then once they have checked the documents, once they have checked your animals, and they have signed off on things, they have you sign off on a couple things, you are good to go, and you have officially imported your animals into Japan. They will also give you a document on, in case you want to leave Japan, how to export your animals out of Japan. So yes, that is exactly everything that I did to bring my animals with me to Japan. Like I said, it's a very stressful, tiring, and expensive process. Again, just make sure you give yourself, honestly, a year in advance to mentally prepare to do this, financially prepare to do this, because it does take a long time and a lot of energy. And if you do have any other questions or concerns, or if you want to share your stories of bringing animals into Japan, you can go ahead and leave them in the comments below, and I will make sure that I do read every single one. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you liked it. I hope it helped somebody, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.